You begin by noticing the smallest changes, the ones that ask nothing from you. A cup of tea sits nearby, once steaming, now only warm, then slowly drifting toward the temperature of the room. You do not rush it. You watch as heat quietly leaves, spreading itself thin, sharing itself with the air. Nothing dramatic happens. Nothing breaks. It is simply the way warmth prefers to move. Around you, sounds soften. A room that once held motion settles into stillness. Objects remain where they are, yet something invisible loosens its grip. This gentle easing is everywhere, always happening, whether you pay attention or not. Tonight, you let yourself notice. This is where the idea of entropy first appears, not as a word, but as a feeling. A sense that things, when left alone, slowly spread out. Energy drifts. Differences smooth away. Sharp edges soften. Entropy is not a force pushing things into ruin. It is a tendency, a leaning, a quiet preference written into the universe itself. You feel it when you stop stirring a drink. The swirl fades. The liquid becomes calm. You feel it when a room you clean slowly gathers dust again, not out of spite, but out of patience. The universe does not rush toward disorder. It strolls. Entropy is often described as disorder, but that word feels harsh, like something has gone wrong. Tonight, you can think of it differently. Think of entropy as spreading, as sharing, as energy wanting to be everywhere equally, so nothing has to work so hard to stay different. Imagine a drop of ink falling into water. At first, it is beautifully distinct. A dark bloom curling through clear space. Over time, the edges blur. The color stretches outward until it is everywhere, faint but present. Nothing is lost. The ink still exists. It is simply no longer concentrated. This is entropy in motion. Your body understands this instinctively. You feel it when you lie still after a long day. Muscles release tension. Heat spreads across skin. Breathing slows, not because you command it, but because your system prefers balance when it is allowed. Entropy does not arrive suddenly. It arrives in whispers, in pauses, in the way effort relaxes when it is no longer needed. It is the reason you must keep moving to stay warm, and the reason stillness eventually cools you. In physics, entropy describes how energy disperses over time. But you do not need equations tonight. You already know this story. You have lived inside it your entire life. Every heartbeat, every breath, every fading echo follows the same gentle rule. The universe begins in a state of intense concentration. Energy packed tightly, differences sharp and dramatic. And from that beginning, everything slowly unfolds. Stars burn bright, then dim. Heat flows outward. Structures form, then soften. Entropy does not destroy these things. It carries them forward. Time itself seems to follow entropy's lead. You remember the past clearly because it is already settled. The future feels open because it has not yet spread itself thin. The present is where concentration slowly releases its grip. When scientists speak of entropy, they are not describing a moral failure of the universe. They are describing its patience. Given enough time, everything relaxes. You can feel this patience in your own body as you rest. Your heart does not stop suddenly. It eases. Your thoughts do not vanish. They drift, becoming less sharp, less demanding. Awareness spreads outward until it feels softer, wider. Entropy is not chaos. Chaos is sudden, violent, unpredictable. Entropy is calm, predictable. It is the reason spilled water always spreads across the floor and never gathers itself back into a glass. Not because it cannot, but because spreading is easier. Ease matters in physics. Systems follow paths that require the least effort. Entropy is the record of that preference. The universe, like you, chooses what costs the least energy to maintain. This does not mean everything falls apart instantly. It means that maintaining structure requires work. A sandcastle stands only while waves are kept away. A room stays warm only while heat is added. A thought remains clear only while attention holds it together. When that work pauses, entropy gently resumes its role. The sandcastle smooths into beach. The room cools. The thought dissolves into something quieter. You are not failing when this happens. Neither is the universe. This is simply the baseline state revealing itself. Tonight, you are allowed to stop pushing against that baseline. You are allowed to let things spread. To let the sharpness of the day soften into something more even, more forgiving. Entropy does not mean nothing matters. It means moments matter because they are temporary. Structure matters because it is held, not guaranteed. As you rest, you may notice how comfort comes from balance, not control. From allowing things to move where they naturally go. Your breath slows. Your muscles loosen. Energy redistributes itself inside you, seeking ease. The universe does this everywhere, at every scale. From cooling stars to quiet rooms to the gentle drifting of your thoughts towards sleep. And as you settle into this spreading calm, a quieter question begins to form. If everything leans toward entropy, toward rest, toward sameness, how does life manage to stay so beautifully organized, even for a while? You rest inside that question, feeling order soften around you, wondering how the universe writes rules so gentle that life can still rise within them. You listen more closely now, not with your ears, but with attention. Beneath the sounds of the room, beneath even your own breathing, there is something quieter still. A rule that does not announce itself. A law that never raises its voice. It simply operates, everywhere, all at once. This law does not care who you are. It does not single anything out. It applies to stars and stones, oceans and air, your body and the space between thoughts. It is written into the fabric of realities so deeply that nothing escapes it. And yet, it feels strangely gentle. Entropy is not a command. It is not an instruction barked by the universe. It is more like a suggestion that everything eventually follows. A quiet preference for energy to move, to spread, to stop being so tightly held. You notice this law in the way warmth never stays put. Heat moves from where it is concentrated to where it is not. It seeps into cooler places, softening contrasts, evening things out. This is not destruction. It is redistribution. The universe prefers balance, but not the kind that freezes everything in place. It prefers dynamic balance, where movement continues, but extremes slowly fade. Entropy is the bookkeeping system that tracks this fading. Physicists call it the second law of thermodynamics, but tonight you can think of it as a lullaby the universe hums to itself. A reminder that effort eventually relaxes, and tension eventually releases. You can feel this law working inside you right now. When you stop holding your shoulders so tight, they drop. When you stop focusing on your breath, it finds its own rhythm. Energy moves toward ease the moment you stop forcing it elsewhere. This law does not rush. It does not panic. It allows time to do the work. Entropy always increases, but it does so patiently, one small adjustment at a time. If you could see the universe from far away, you would notice that nothing is truly static. Even solid objects vibrate at microscopic scales. Atoms jiggle. Molecules wander. Energy is always on the move, even when things appear still. Entropy is what gives that motion direction. Not a straight line, but a trend. A slow drift from concentration toward dispersion. This drift gives time its sense of forward motion. You can scramble an egg, but you cannot unscramble it. You can burn wood into ash, but the ash will not gather itself back into a log. These are not failures of imagination. They are signatures of entropy at work. Time moves forward because entropy increases. The universe remembers where it has been by the way energy has already spread. The future remains open because that spreading has not happened yet. This is why the past feels fixed and the future feels flexible. Entropy has already done its work behind you. Ahead of you, it waits. You may notice how comforting this can be. The universe is not random in the way chaos is random. It follows patterns so reliable that you can build clocks, engines, and entire lives around them. Entropy does not erase predictability. It creates it. You know that night follows day. You know that heat dissipates. You know that effort leads to fatigue and rest follows effort. These are all expressions of the same quiet rule. Even decay follows order. There is a sequence to how things fall apart. A rhythm to how structures loosen. Entropy is not the enemy of form. It is the reason form changes instead of vanishing instantly. You rest more deeply when you realize that nothing is being targeted. Entropy does not come for you. It does not undo things out of malice. It simply allows energy to follow the easiest available path. Ease is important here. Systems evolve towards states that require less work to maintain. A smooth surface requires less energy than a jagged one. A room at even temperature requires less energy than one split between hot and cold. Entropy measures how close a system is to that ease. This does not mean the universe dislikes structure. It means structure is temporary unless something keeps feeding it energy. A candle flame exists only while wax and oxygen continue to flow. A storm exists only while temperature differences drive it. Once the flow stops, entropy resumes its gentle work. You begin to see that this law is not cold or indifferent. It is consistent, reliable, almost kind in its predictability. Your body trusts it. Your cells rely on it. Your sleep depends on it. As energy spreads evenly through you, tension dissolves. Sharp thoughts soften. Awareness widens, then quiets. Entropy does not demand that you give anything up. It only asks that you stop holding so tightly. And as you float in this understanding, another curiosity slowly emerges. If this law is so universal, so unavoidable, how does anything ever manage to stay organized at all, especially something as delicate and alive as you? You drift with that question, feeling the universe's rule humming steadily around you, and begin to wonder how life listens to entropy and somehow learns to work with it instead of fading away. You rest inside a quiet contradiction. Everything you have learned so far suggests that order fades, spreads, softens. Energy drifts outward. Structures loosen. And yet, here you are. Warm. Organized. Breathing in rhythm. Thinking thoughts that hold together long enough to mean something. By all simple logic, life should not exist. In a universe guided by entropy, nothing should stay neatly arranged for long. Patterns should dissolve. Differences should flatten. And still, living systems persist, sometimes for decades, sometimes for billions of years. They remain improbably ordered islands floating in a sea that prefers sameness. This is not a rebellion against the universe. Life does not break entropy's law. It obeys it perfectly. That is the quiet miracle. You can feel this miracle without understanding it yet. Your body holds temperature while the air around you cools. Your cells maintain boundaries while everything else spreads. Your mind keeps a thread of awareness even as thoughts drift towards sleep. Life does not stop entropy. It redirects it. To understand this, you imagine a small whirlpool forming in a river. Water rushes past, always moving downstream, always following gravity's pull. The whirlpool does not block the river. It exists because of it. Flow creates structure. Life is like that whirlpool. Temporary. Local. Beautiful. Made possible by the movement of energy, not protected from it. Living systems stay organized by allowing entropy to increase somewhere else. Your body takes in energy in concentrated forms, food, oxygen, sunlight, and releases it back out as heat, motion, and waste. Order is built inside by spreading disorder outside. Nothing magical is happening. Nothing supernatural. Just careful accounting. Every heartbeat pumps warm blood outward. Every breath releases heat and moisture. Every thought burns energy. Life pays entropy constantly, never skipping a payment, never falling behind. This is why stillness feels so close to sleep. When energy flow slows, life loosens its grip. When flow stops entirely, order can no longer be maintained. You are not separate from this process. You are a process. At the smallest scale, inside every cell, molecules are constantly moving, colliding, reacting. Proteins fold into precise shapes. Membranes maintain gradients. Information is copied with care. None of this is permanent. It must be renewed moment by moment. If energy stopped flowing into your cells, they would relax into entropy within minutes. Structure would soften. Gradients would fade. Life would quietly end, not with drama, but with equilibrium. This fragility is not a flaw. It is the price of being alive. Life exists far from equilibrium. It stays balanced by never settling. It survives by moving, exchanging, transforming. You notice how this mirrors your own experience. When you stay engaged, curious, responsive, you feel alive. When everything stops changing, boredom creeps in. When movement ceases entirely, sleep follows. Life and consciousness share this pattern. Both require flow. Scientists call living systems dissipative structures. That sounds technical, but the idea is gentle. It means structures that exist because they dissipate energy. They are shaped by flow, sustained by movement, undone by stillness. A flame is a dissipative structure. So is a hurricane. So is a living cell. The difference is that life learns to regulate the flow, to shape it inward before letting it go. Your body is a careful sculptor of energy. It channels flows through pathways refined by evolution. Blood vessels branch like rivers. Nerves transmit signals like lightning tamed. Cells specialize, cooperate, communicate. None of this violates entropy. It accelerates it. The universe allows local order as long as the total disorder increases. Life is not a loophole. It is a consequence. You begin to sense how comforting this is. Life is not a mistake struggling against reality. It is reality expressing itself in a complex way, for a little while. You do not need to fight entropy to matter. You only need to participate in the flow. Even now, as you rest, energy continues to move through you. Your heart beats. Your lungs rise and fall. Your cells repair themselves. Heat leaks gently into the room. Entropy increases elsewhere, so you may remain organized here. This exchange is continuous, silent, reliable. Life persists not by resisting the universe, but by listening closely to it. By finding stable patterns inside motion. By turning flow into form. This is why living things are never truly still. Even in sleep, activity hums beneath the surface. Dreams flicker. Memory consolidates. Systems recalibrate. Stillness would mean equilibrium. Equilibrium would mean the end of life. So life dances near the edge, balanced between structure and spread, order and release. You may feel a sense of awe here, but also relief. You are not responsible for holding yourself together alone. The universe supports this balance by allowing it. Entropy does not rush to erase you. It makes your existence possible by giving direction to energy. As you drift deeper into rest, you can let go of the idea that life must be defended. It only needs to be allowed to flow. And as that understanding settles, another layer of curiosity emerges. If life maintains order by shaping energy so carefully, where does this delicate work truly begin? You follow that question inward, toward the smallest living spaces inside you, wondering how tiny structures learn to hold calm against a universe that never stops moving. You drift inward now, leaving the wide ideas of the universe behind, moving gently towards something much smaller. Smaller than organs. Smaller than tissues. You move toward the quiet, living rooms inside you where life does its most careful work. You arrive at the scale of cells. Each one is tiny beyond imagination, yet complete in itself. A soft boundary surrounds it, not as a wall of defense, but as a place where inside and outside can remain meaningfully different. This difference is everything. Inside a cell, order is carefully held. Outside, the world presses in, restless, full of motion. The cell does not fight this pressure. It negotiates with it, moment by moment. The membrane of a cell is thin, flexible, alive with activity. Things are allowed in. Other things are guided out. Energy passes through. Information travels. Nothing is random here, but nothing is frozen either. A cell is not a fortress. It is an agreement. Inside, molecules are arranged just so. Proteins fold into precise shapes, like keys made to fit invisible locks. Instructions are copied, repaired, read softly over and over. Water flows, ions drift, tiny motors walk along microscopic tracks. All of this happens while entropy presses from every direction. Left alone, the contents of a cell would quickly dissolve into sameness. Concentrations would flatten. Structures would relax. Life would fade into equilibrium. But the cell does not allow itself to be left alone. Energy flows through it constantly. Food molecules are broken apart. Energy is captured briefly, then released again. Heat leaks outward. Waste drifts away. The cell maintains its calm by exporting disorder, sending entropy back into the world beyond its boundary. This is the secret of cellular life. Order inside is paid for by disorder outside. You can imagine each cell as a small island in a vast ocean. Waves of randomness crash against its shores, but the island remains, reshaped continuously, never quite the same, never erased. Cells do not seek permanence. They seek persistence. To persist, they must work. Not with strain, but with consistency. Every second, countless reactions occur. Repairs are made before damage becomes visible. Balance is adjusted before collapse is possible. This constant activity is not exhausting to the cell. It is the cell. Stillness would be dangerous here. Movement is safety. Flow is survival. Inside you, trillions of these islands hum quietly, each one maintaining its own internal weather, its own gentle climate of order. They cooperate, communicate, specialize. Together, they form something that feels solid and singular to you. But even now, you are not fixed. You are an ongoing process, rebuilt continuously from the inside out. Cells replace themselves. Molecules swap places. Energy moves through you like a tide. What remains constant is not matter, but pattern. Entropy never stops knocking. It never pauses. And yet, cells do not panic. They respond with routines refined over billions of years. A gradient is maintained. A signal is sent. A repair is made. This is not defiance. It is participation. Cells follow the same universal laws as stars and storms. They simply operate in a narrow window where flow creates stability instead of erasing it. You feel something soothing in this realization. Life is not holding back chaos through force. It is holding calm through attentiveness. Every cell listens carefully to its surroundings. It senses changes. It adapts. When resources are plentiful, it grows. When conditions worsen, it slows, conserves, waits. Even death, at the cellular level, is not failure. When a cell can no longer maintain its internal order, it dissolves gracefully, making way for others. Entropy reclaims what was borrowed. Nothing is wasted. Everything returns. As you rest, your cells are especially busy. Damage from the day is repaired. Proteins are sorted. Memories are stabilized in the gentle chemistry of your brain. Sleep is not absence. It is maintenance. Entropy continues to rise in the room around you. Heat drifts outward. Air currents settle. But inside, order quietly renews itself. This balance cannot last forever. No cell escapes time. But longevity is not the goal. Continuity is. Cells pass patterns forward. Instructions survive even as individual cells do not. Life flows through generations, using temporary structures to maintain long-term continuity. This too follows entropy's rules. Information requires energy to preserve. Life spends that energy willingly. You may notice how this mirrors your own emotional life. Calm does not come from suppressing chaos, but from allowing movement while maintaining boundaries. Rest is not collapse. It is regulation. Cells know this instinctively. They open and close channels. They allow some things in and keep others out. They remain porous, not rigid. Rigidity would shatter under pressure. Flexibility endures. You breathe more slowly now, as if your body recognizes itself in this story. Your cells do not ask you to control them. They ask only that you allow the flow to continue. As long as energy moves, order can be shaped. As long as boundaries remain gentle, calm can be held. And as you drift deeper into rest, another thought begins to form. If every cell depends on energy flowing in from the world, where does that energy truly come from, and how does your body gather it so quietly, so constantly, without asking you to notice at all? You follow that question outward again, toward breath and nourishment, toward the subtle ways your body borrows order from the world and promises to return it in time. You return gently to the surface of yourself. Not all the way outward, but to the places where inside and outside meet. Where the world touches you, and you touch it back. Breath. Food. Warmth. Exchange. You notice your breathing first. Air enters without effort, cool and unnoticed, filling spaces that were empty a moment ago. It leaves warmer, softer, carrying traces of you with it. Each breath is a quiet trade, repeated thousands of times a day without announcement. With every inhale, you borrow order. Oxygen molecules arrive tightly packed with potential. With every exhale, you return disorder. Heat spreads. Moisture disperses. Entropy increases elsewhere, so you may remain alive here. Breathing is not just about air. It is about movement. Flow in, flow out. Nothing held too tightly. Nothing kept forever. Your body understands this exchange better than your mind ever could. It does not cling to energy. It guides it. It shapes it briefly, then lets it go. Food follows the same pattern. When you eat, you are not simply filling space. You are importing structure. Carefully arranged molecules, built by sunlight and soil and time, cross your boundaries and become part of you. Inside, they are dismantled with care. bonds are broken, energy is released. Pieces are rearranged into muscles, membranes, signals, and thoughts. What cannot be used is sent away, returned to the wider world. This is not waste. It is balance. Life never creates order from nothing. It only transforms order that already exists. Plants borrow energy from sunlight, shaping it into sugars and fibers. Animals borrow that structure, reshaping it again. Eventually, everything returns to simpler forms. Entropy keeps the books. Life keeps the story moving. You may notice how effortless this feels when you stop thinking about it. You do not instruct your stomach to digest. You do not tell your lungs how much oxygen to extract. The exchange happens quietly, rhythmically, faithfully. This is because life evolved inside entropy, not against it. Living systems are experts at borrowing just enough order to stay coherent, then releasing it gently back into the world. Warmth is part of this payment. Your body runs warmer than the air around you, and that difference cannot last without cost. Heat leaks outward constantly, a soft glow you never see. That glow is entropy increasing. Even now, as you rest, warmth drifts from your skin into the room. The room grows infinitesimally warmer. The universe grows infinitesimally more even. You do not lose anything by this. You gain time. Order inside you is temporary by design. It is held just long enough to allow experience, awareness, memory, and rest. This exchange extends beyond your body. You drink water that once flowed through clouds and rivers. You eat matter that was once soil, leaf, sunlight. You exhale carbon that may one day become part of a tree. Nothing belongs to you forever. Everything passes through. This realization does not diminish you. It connects you. You are not an isolated object resisting decay. You are a meeting place. A crossing point where energy pauses, rearranges itself, and moves on. Entropy makes this pause possible by giving energy direction. Without the push toward spread, nothing would flow. Without flow, nothing could live. You may feel relief here. Life is not fragile because it depends on exchange. It is resilient because it does. When one source of order fades, another arrives. When one pathway closes, another opens. As long as flow continues, balance can be found. Your body is constantly making small adjustments. If energy intake increases, it stores. If intake drops, it releases. If temperature falls, it generates warmth. If warmth rises, it dissipates. These adjustments are not signs of struggle. They are signs of listening. Living systems survive by sensing gradients and responding gently. A difference in temperature. A difference in concentration. A difference in availability. Entropy smooths gradients. Life rides them. This is why extremes feel dangerous. When gradients disappear completely, there is no flow to shape. When everything becomes equal, equilibrium arrives, and life fades. So your body seeks just enough difference, just enough contrast to stay awake, just enough imbalance to keep moving. Breath after breath, bite after bite, heartbeat after heartbeat, you borrow order and return it with gratitude. Nothing is hoarded. Nothing is wasted. Everything circulates. Even sleep follows this rule. During the day, you gather information, build tension, store potential. At night, you release it. Heat spreads. Muscles loosen. Neural activity redistributes. Sleep is entropy allowed to do its quiet work inside you, reorganizing rather than erasing. You are not collapsing into disorder. You are recalibrating. As this chapter settles around you, you may feel your breathing deepen, your body trusting this exchange completely. There is no need to hold on. What is needed will arrive. What is no longer needed will drift away. And as you rest inside this rhythm of borrowing and returning, another question begins to form. If energy must always flow for life to continue, what are the hidden currents that keep that flow moving through you, even when you are perfectly still? You drift with that question, sensing the invisible streams beneath your stillness, and begin to wonder how flow itself becomes the quiet force that keeps you awake, alive, and gently aware. You become aware of motion without movement. Your body lies still, yet something within you continues to travel. Energy flows quietly, like a river beneath ice, unseen but unmistakably present. This flow is not dramatic. It does not surge or roar. It moves in gentle pulses, measured and precise. A heartbeat. A signal along a nerve. A molecule drifting into place just in time. Life continues, even when you do nothing at all. Stillness, you begin to realize, is not the absence of flow. It is the absence of resistance. Energy enters you, moves through you, and leaves you again. The path it takes shapes who you are in this moment. Muscles receive instructions, then relax. Thoughts form, then dissolve. Awareness brightens, then softens. If this flow were to stop, everything would change quickly. Muscles would stiffen. Signals would fade. Balance would vanish. Stillness would become something else entirely. Life depends on motion, but not the kind you control. It depends on internal currents guided by structure, timing, and gentle gradients. Inside you, chemical energy becomes electrical signals. Electrical signals become movement, sensation, thought. Heat emerges as a byproduct, spreading outward, marking entropy's steady increase beyond your skin. You are not burning energy wastefully. You are transforming it. Flow allows order to exist briefly, beautifully, and then to be released again. Even your thoughts follow this pattern. They arise from neural activity, shaped by energy moving across networks refined by experience. When energy concentrates, a thought becomes clear. When it spreads, the thought loosens, fades, gives way to another. This is why forcing stillness in the mind feels impossible. Thought does not stop because flow does not stop. It only changes shape. Sleep does not require stopping energy. It requires redirecting it. As you settle into rest, energy shifts away from alertness and toward repair. Muscles soften. Senses dim. The brain reorganizes information, strengthening some connections while allowing others to weaken. This redistribution is entropy doing useful work. You may notice how exhaustion feels different from calm. Exhaustion is depleted flow. Calm is balanced flow. One feels heavy. The other feels light. Life seeks the second. The flow inside you is guided by gradients, differences that invite movement. A difference in electrical charge across a membrane. A difference in chemical concentration. A difference in temperature. Where differences exist, energy moves. Where movement exists, life persists. Entropy smooths these differences over time. Life constantly rebuilds them. This rebuilding is not frantic. It is rhythmic. Like tides shaped by the moon, internal flows rise and fall in cycles. Waking and sleeping. Eating and fasting. Effort and rest. When these cycles align, flow feels effortless. When they are disrupted, resistance appears. You can feel resistance as tension, anxiety, restlessness. Signs that energy is not moving where it expects to go. As you rest now, resistance softens. Pathways open. Flow resumes its familiar routes. Your heart does not question whether to beat. Your lungs do not hesitate before filling. Systems trust one another, handing energy along like a relay, never dropping it, never holding it too long. This trust is built into you. It evolved because it works. Entropy is not the enemy of this flow. It is the reason flow has direction. Without the tendency towards spread, energy would stagnate. Without stagnation's threat, life would have no reason to move. Movement keeps systems far from equilibrium. Flow keeps order alive. You may imagine energy like water moving through a landscape. Channels guide it. Barriers redirect it. When paths are clear, the water flows smoothly. When blocked, pressure builds. Your body constantly reshapes its internal landscape to keep channels open. It dissolves clots, repairs tissue, adjusts chemistry, all to keep energy moving. Even pain is a message about flow. A signal that something is blocked, inflamed, disrupted. Healing restores movement before restoring comfort. As awareness softens, you may sense gratitude rising quietly. Gratitude for processes you never asked to manage. Gratitude for currents that carry you through every moment of being alive. You do not need to understand these flows to benefit from them. You only need to allow them. Breathing deepens. Heart rate steadies. Energy finds easier paths. Flow does not demand effort. It invites release. This is why rest is so powerful. When you stop interfering, systems recalibrate. When you stop forcing outcomes, balance returns. Life thrives not through control, but through cooperation with flow. Entropy ensures that energy never stays trapped. Life ensures that energy is shaped meaningfully along the way. Together, they create a dynamic balance that feels like being awake, aware, alive. As this understanding settles, another thought begins to drift in. If flow gives life its motion and entropy gives time its direction, how does this movement carve memory, shaping the way past and future feel so different inside you? You rest inside that question, sensing time flowing as gently as energy itself, and begin to wonder how entropy quietly draws the arrow that points your memories in only one direction. You begin to notice something subtle about time. Not clocks or calendars, not schedules or deadlines, but the way moments feel different depending on where they sit. The past feels solid. The future feels open. The present feels thin, always slipping away as soon as you touch it. This difference is not imagined. It has a shape, and entropy gives it direction. You remember things, but you do not remember the future. You can plan, imagine, hope, but memory only ever points one way. This one-way motion is called time's arrow, and it follows the same gentle rule that guides energy. Entropy increases. The past is ordered because it has already happened. Energy has already spread. Decisions have already settled into outcomes. The universe has finished accounting for those moments. They are fixed, not because they were perfect, but because they are complete. The future remains unordered because entropy has not yet done its work there. Energy is still concentrated in possibilities. Paths have not yet been chosen. Nothing has spread out enough to become definite. You live in the narrow place where concentration turns into dispersion, where intention becomes action, where potential becomes memory. This is why the present feels alive. Memory itself is an act of ordering. Inside your brain, patterns of activity leave traces. Connections strengthen. Signals repeat. Energy flows in familiar paths, making certain thoughts easier to return to than others. Remembering requires work. It requires energy. Forgetting happens when that energy is no longer spent. Entropy plays a quiet role here. Left alone, memories soften. Details fade. Edges blur. This is not failure. It is efficiency. If nothing faded, your mind would be overwhelmed, cluttered with equal intensity everywhere. Forgetting allows meaning to remain concentrated where it matters most. Your brain does not fight entropy. It uses it. During sleep, memories are reshaped. Some are reinforced. Others are allowed to dissolve. Energy is redistributed, smoothing excess detail, preserving useful structure. This is why sleep feels restorative to the mind. It is entropy guided gently rather than resisted. You may notice how emotionally charged memories feel sharper. They carried more energy when they formed. They resist spreading longer. Over time, even these soften, not disappearing, but becoming easier to hold. Time does not erase memory suddenly. It spreads it. The arrow of time also explains why you experience cause before effect. Why effort comes before rest. Why growth comes before aging. These sequences are not arbitrary. They follow the direction in which entropy increases. You cannot return heat from a room back into a cup of tea. You cannot unring a bell. The universe does not forbid these things morally. It makes them statistically impossible. There are simply too many ways for energy to spread, and too few ways for it to concentrate again without help. Life provides that help locally, briefly, at a cost. Your body uses energy to rebuild order every moment. Your mind uses energy to maintain focus. Your memories use energy to remain accessible. The past feels heavier because it carries the weight of completed entropy. The future feels lighter because it has not yet paid that cost. This is why regret and nostalgia cling so strongly. They are attempts to revisit states of higher concentration, moments before energy spread too far to gather again. But entropy does not allow rewinding. It allows learning. Learning is memory shaped forward. Information from the past influences future flow. Patterns are adjusted. Behavior changes. Energy is guided differently next time. In this way, entropy gives time meaning rather than emptiness. You may feel comfort in knowing that nothing truly disappears. Energy spreads, but it remains. Information softens, but traces linger. The universe remembers in its own way, even when you forget. Your memories are not perfect recordings. They are living structures, reshaped each time you visit them. Each recall is a small expenditure of energy, a small act of reordering. This is why memories change. Each time you touch them, entropy leaves its mark. The arrow of time also allows anticipation. Because entropy moves forward predictably, you can expect night after day, rest after effort, calm after release. Sleep itself follows this arrow. Wakefulness builds complexity. Thoughts multiply. Sensory input accumulates. Sleep allows entropy to smooth that complexity, restoring balance. You do not lose yourself when you sleep. You reorganize. Even dreams follow entropy's logic. Images blend. Narratives loosen. Boundaries soften. The mind explores without the need for strict order. This exploration prepares you for waking life by releasing unnecessary rigidity. You may notice how morning feels like renewal, not because entropy reversed, but because it was allowed to finish a cycle. Time moves forward because entropy increases. But life experiences that movement as rhythm rather than loss. Memory holds the past just long enough to learn from it. Forgetting clears space just in time to rest. Both serve you. As you lie here, drifting gently, the arrow of time continues its quiet motion. Energy spreads. Awareness softens. The future waits, unwritten. And another thought begins to form: if time carries everything forward and memory shapes what remains, how does life itself change as entropy slowly leaves its signature across years, bodies, and growth? You rest with that question, sensing time's arrow stretching gently ahead, and begin to wonder how growth and aging follow the same calm law that guides every spreading moment. You begin to notice change not as something sudden, but as something patient. Growth does not rush. Aging does not announce itself. Both arrive quietly, one small adjustment at a time, guided by the same gentle law you have been following all along. Life begins by building. Cells divide. Connections multiply. Structures grow more intricate, more specialized, more finely tuned. Energy flows inward, shaping complexity where there was once simplicity. This early movement feels expansive. Potential unfolds rapidly. The body learns how to regulate itself. The mind absorbs patterns effortlessly. Entropy is still present, but growth outruns it, fueled by abundant energy and constant repair. Youth feels like accumulation. But growth is not the final goal. It is a phase. A preparation. As time moves forward, maintenance slowly replaces construction. The work of holding structure becomes more demanding. Repairs take longer. Margins narrow. Entropy presses more steadily, not with aggression, but with persistence. Aging is not the moment things begin to fall apart. It is the moment the balance shifts. Energy that once built new structure is now spent preserving what already exists. Cells still export disorder, but the cost rises. Gradients become harder to maintain. Signals weaken. Redundancies disappear. This is not decay in the dramatic sense. It is gentle unraveling. You may notice how this mirrors familiar rhythms. A song reaches its fullest expression, then fades. A day peaks at noon, then drifts toward evening. Complexity rises, then simplifies. Entropy is present in both directions. It allows growth by driving flow. It allows aging by making that flow more expensive over time. Living systems are not designed to remain at peak complexity forever. That would require infinite energy. Instead, life accepts impermanence and builds meaning inside it. Aging is not the opposite of growth. It is growth completing its arc. Cells continue to divide, but not as flawlessly. Errors accumulate slowly. Repair systems still work, but less efficiently. Information persists, but with softer edges. None of this erases identity. Pattern remains, even as detail fades. You are not less yourself because change has passed through you. You are yourself because it has. Entropy leaves signatures rather than scars. It smooths peaks. It rounds corners. It quiets extremes. In the body, this appears as slower recovery, gentler strength, deeper need for rest. In the mind, it appears as perspective, patience, and the softening of urgency. Complexity gives way to coherence. You may notice how experience compresses over time. Early memories are vivid and numerous. Later years feel faster, not because time accelerates, but because less novelty is being created. Novelty requires energy. Entropy resists it. This does not make later life empty. It makes it distilled. Meaning becomes less about accumulation and more about resonance. Less about building and more about inhabiting what already exists. Aging is not entropy winning. It is entropy finishing a cycle. Every living system eventually reaches a point where maintaining complexity costs more than simplifying. At that point, life does not collapse. It transitions. This transition can be gentle when supported by rest, care, and acceptance. It can be harsh when resisted. Resistance does not stop entropy. It only adds tension. Acceptance allows energy to flow where it is still useful. You may feel comfort here. Nothing in you is being taken away unfairly. Everything is being transformed according to the same rule that allowed you to grow in the first place. Entropy does not erase meaning. It reveals it. Moments stand out more clearly when they are known to be temporary. Relationships deepen when time is felt. Presence sharpens when permanence is released. This is why endings feel significant. They concentrate attention. They gather emotion. They give shape to memory. Without entropy, nothing would end. Without endings, nothing would matter. Even death, when viewed through this lens, is not a violation of life's rules. It is their final expression. Order is released. Energy spreads. Materials return to wider cycles. What was borrowed is returned. Life does not promise forever. It promises experience. You rest more deeply when you stop asking life to be endless and begin allowing it to be complete. As you lie here, Perhaps you notice subtle signs of your own unfolding. Breathing slower than before. Thoughts arriving with less urgency. Muscles choosing ease over tension. This is not decline. It is recalibration. Entropy works gently when allowed to finish its tasks. In sleep, you practice this acceptance nightly. Consciousness loosens. Control fades. Awareness spreads and softens. You do not disappear. You reorganize. This nightly unraveling prepares you for morning's rebuilding. Life exists inside cycles of complexity and release. Growth and aging are simply larger expressions of the same pattern. You may feel gratitude here. Gratitude that nothing is frozen. Gratitude that change continues to shape you without asking permission. Entropy ensures that life remains dynamic rather than static. That stories have arcs. That experiences have texture. And as this chapter settles into stillness, another idea begins to surface. If individuals grow, age, and return their order to the world, what happens when many living systems intertwine, exchanging energy together across landscapes, forests, and seas? You drift with that thought, sensing life expanding beyond your own boundaries, and begin to wonder how entire ecosystems breathe, balance, and age together under the same quiet law. You drift outward now, beyond the boundary of your own body, beyond skin and breath and memory. You rise gently into a wider view, where life is no longer a single form, but a woven pattern spread across land, water, and air. You begin to see ecosystems. A forest is not just trees. It is soil breathing beneath leaves, fungi threading quietly underground, insects moving energy from plant to plant, animals shaping growth through motion and absence. Above it all, air circulates, carrying heat and moisture onward. Nothing here exists alone. Energy enters the system mostly as sunlight, falling patiently onto leaves and water. Plants gather it first, slowing it down, shaping it into sugars and fibers. This is borrowed order, captured briefly from a distant star. From there, energy flows outward. Herbivores eat plants. Carnivores eat herbivores. Decomposers return what remains to the soil. Heat leaks away at every step, warming air, dispersing into space. Entropy rises everywhere outside the living loops, allowing life inside them to persist. An ecosystem does not fight entropy. It distributes it. You notice how layered this process is. Each level depends on the one before it. Each passes energy onward, never holding it for long. Balance emerges not from control, but from circulation. When energy moves smoothly, systems stabilize. When flow is interrupted, imbalance appears. A drought alters plant growth. Plant loss reshapes animal movement. Soil chemistry shifts. The system responds, not as a single mind, but as many connected processes adjusting together. Ecosystems are not fragile because they are interconnected. They are resilient because of it. Entropy ensures that no part can hoard energy indefinitely. Excess is always released. Scarcity invites adaptation. Flow continues, reshaping structure along the way. Oceans follow the same quiet logic. Sunlight warms surface waters. Currents carry heat across the planet. Phytoplankton capture energy, forming the base of vast food webs. Energy passes upward through fish, mammals, birds. Heat spreads outward. Entropy increases. Life persists inside the exchange. Even the atmosphere participates. Winds move warmth. Clouds gather moisture, then release it. Storms redistribute energy rapidly, restoring balance between hot and cold regions. A hurricane, like a forest, is a dissipative structure. It exists to move energy. It forms where gradients are steep and fades when balance returns. Life often follows in its wake. You begin to sense how deeply familiar this pattern feels. It mirrors the flows inside your own body. Energy enters, circulates, and leaves. Order is held briefly, then released. The same rule applies at every scale. No ecosystem aims for permanence. They aim for continuity. Species come and go. Landscapes change. The pattern of exchange remains. When forests age, they accumulate complexity. Old trees slow energy flow, storing carbon, creating stable microclimates. Entropy presses more gently here, stretched across long timescales. Eventually, disturbances arrive. Fire, storm, insects. These are not intrusions. They are releases. Energy stored too tightly is spread again. Nutrients return to soil. Light reaches the forest floor. New growth begins. Entropy resets the system, allowing renewal. You may feel a quiet shift in perspective. Destruction and creation are not opposites here. They are phases of the same movement. Life does not cling to form. It clings to process. You are part of this process, even now. The oxygen you breathe was shaped by forests and oceans. The food that sustains you passed through countless living hands before reaching you. The warmth you release drifts into the atmosphere, joining planetary currents. You are not separate from ecosystems. You are one expression of them. Your existence depends on shared balance. On countless exchanges you will never witness. On entropy increasing far beyond your awareness. This realization can feel humbling, but it is also comforting. You do not carry the burden of balance alone. It is distributed across millions of interactions, all adjusting together. Ecosystems breathe not through lungs, but through cycles. Carbon moves. Nitrogen transforms. Water circulates. Each cycle is a conversation between life and entropy. When these conversations are interrupted too sharply, systems strain. But even then, adaptation begins. New flows form. New balances emerge. Life is patient. Entropy is patient. Together, they explore possibility. As you rest, you may sense your own breathing syncing with something larger. Inhale, exhale. Borrow, return. Gather, release. The rhythm that sustains you is the same rhythm that sustains forests, reefs, and skies. Nothing here is wasted. Nothing here is final. Energy changes hands endlessly, shaping order just long enough for experience to unfold. Ecosystems remind you that balance is not stillness. It is movement shared across many forms. They also remind you that participation matters. Small changes ripple outward. Gentle shifts accumulate. But there is no urgency here tonight. Only awareness. As you drift deeper into rest, you feel yourself held inside a living network that has been balancing itself for billions of years. Entropy hums steadily beyond the edges, making space for life's temporary order to continue. And as this wide view softens, another quiet thought begins to form. If all this balance exists only for a while, if order is always borrowed and returned, how does life learn to hold itself just long enough to feel meaningful before letting go? You rest inside that question, feeling the vast system breathing around you, and begin to wonder how your own small pocket of order is held gently, briefly, and just long enough to matter. Life, you realize, is not a battle against entropy. It is a dance with it. Every heartbeat, every breath, every thought is a step in this quiet choreography. Order is not permanent. It is borrowed. It is held just long enough to mean something. It exists because energy flows through it, and it will disperse when that flow shifts. Yet this temporary nature does not make it less real. It makes it precious. You may notice how this applies to everything you are. Your body maintains warmth against cooler surroundings. Cells hold concentration against the pressure of diffusion. Energy flows in, energy flows out. You are a small island of calm in a universe that prefers spreading, and you are constantly participating in the gentle redistribution of entropy. Even the structure of your thoughts follows this rhythm. Ideas form, persist long enough to influence your actions, and then dissolve into memory or fade completely. You remember patterns, retain lessons, release excess. Your mind mirrors the processes inside your cells, your body, and the wider world around you. Everything flows. Everything balances. Everything eventually returns. You may feel a sense of wonder as you rest with this awareness. The same laws that govern the spread of heat, the flow of rivers, the growth of trees, and the drift of galaxies also shape the subtle movements inside you. Order is local. Disorder is universal. Energy moves. Life persists, delicate and ephemeral, but meaningful all the same. You begin to sense the generosity of this arrangement. Entropy increases elsewhere, allowing you to remain organized here. Your cells maintain boundaries and gradients while energy disperses outward. Oxygen and nutrients flow in, waste and heat flow out. Memories hold, hearts beat, neurons signal. This quiet trade is not a transaction. It is a relationship, a dance of give and take, sustained by countless interactions across scales and time. Resting in this perspective, you may notice the fleeting beauty of all forms of order. Your body, your mind, the forest, the ocean, even the stars, they all exist just long enough to experience themselves, to move, to influence, to change. Nothing lasts forever, but everything matters while it does. This impermanence does not diminish life, it enriches it. It teaches patience, attentiveness, and gratitude. Even the smallest exchanges matter. A breath taken in, a nutrient absorbed, a thought remembered, a gesture extended, each contributes to the flow, each maintains a small island of order long enough to hold meaning. And every small act contributes to the broader rhythm of life, joining countless others across space and time. You may notice a gentle alignment of your own rhythms now. Breathing slows, heartbeat steadies, muscles relax. Internal currents redistribute, energy flows where it is needed, and waste is carried away. The body does not demand attention. It performs its work silently, gracefully, in partnership with entropy. You are a living system precisely because you allow this balance to happen, because you participate willingly in the constant flow. Sleep itself is part of this pattern. During rest, your body repairs, recalibrates, and releases what is no longer needed. Your mind consolidates experience, reshaping memory while letting unneeded details fade. Entropy works quietly, smoothing edges, distributing energy, allowing order to persist where it is most valuable. You do not resist it, and so it moves through you efficiently, preserving you, preparing you for the next cycle of wakefulness. You may notice the emotional relief that comes with this acceptance. Life does not demand perfection. You do not need to hold onto every thought, every feeling, every particle of yourself forever. Order is temporary, yes, but it is enough. It is sufficient. It is yours to experience, to hold gently, to release when the time comes. You can feel the rhythm of your life mirrored in the world outside. Just as your body moves energy through cells, neurons, and muscles, ecosystems circulate nutrients, heat, and information. Just as your thoughts shape patterns in your mind, rivers shape valleys, winds sculpt dunes, seasons rearrange forests. The same rules apply everywhere. Energy flows, order is held locally, and entropy increases elsewhere. Everything participates. Everything matters. And now, as your awareness drifts closer to sleep, you begin to notice the soft repetition of these patterns within yourself. Your breathing mirrors the movement of water. Your heartbeat echoes the pulses of sunlight across the earth. Your thoughts rise and fall like gentle tides, carrying structure that is renewed with each cycle. You are both observer and participant, both calm center and flowing energy, both temporary and meaningful. You may allow yourself to rest fully into this understanding. Life is sustained, not through resistance, but through cooperation with flow. The balance you hold within yourself is echoed in countless other systems around you. You are part of a larger dance, connected invisibly to cells, organisms, forests, oceans, and skies. Your temporary order exists in harmony with the universal tendency towards spread. And as you sink deeper into this calm, you sense the soft inevitability of continuation. Energy will flow. Order will form and dissolve. Life will persist in countless forms, always local, always fleeting, always meaningful. You are here for a while. That is enough. A gentle curiosity arises as the edges of consciousness soften. If life borrows order from the world and pays entropy back in return, if every moment of stability is temporary, how will you continue to participate tomorrow? What small flows will you guide? What small balances will you hold, however briefly, before releasing them again? These questions are not urgent. They are invitations. They do not demand answers. They only invite awareness, presence, and rest. You allow your mind to drift, letting these ideas float without pressure. The world outside continues to hum with motion, but inside, you rest. You are warm. You are organized. You are alive. And this moment, this small island of calm, is enough. You drift into sleep, trusting the flow to continue, and rest in the quiet knowledge that order need only be held just long enough to matter, and that this dance will begin anew with the morning light.